Revenant launch brought about a new season, and of course, because of that, every gilding has to be redone again if you wish to increase it in number. This one goes to 13, the Conqueror title. It just got to 12, it is now up to 13, and it seems to have stuck with the array of 9 Nightfalls a episode instead of the usual 6. That seems to be a usual pattern now with our Nightfalls, maybe until we get to the next year, who knows. But that being said, we have currently available the Grandmaster Battlegrounds Behemoth, Liminality, the Corrupted, the Inverted Spire, the Arms Dealer, the Heist Battleground Moon, Birthplace of the Vile, Proving Grounds, and the Lightblade. That being said, I would rank these on easy, medium, or hard, just generally depending. I legitimately don't think there's any easy ones this season. The easy ones I would rank would be things like Saber, or, well, actually, that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that is an easy one. Saber, maybe even Devil's Lair, just because even though there's a lot of ads, you can get through it quite easy. But just going through it, the Battlegrounds Behemoth, if I recall correctly, is one of the Battlegrounds from the Keitel era, which means this was the first instance of Battlegrounds, which means there's a lot of ads, and lots of portions where you just have to stand still and take on a lot of incoming ads. So do I see this being difficult? Possibly. I would say this is a medium to hard depending on how experienced you are as a Grandmaster Nightfall Strike runner. I almost said Grandmaster Raider. But otherwise, I'd say this one is to be looked out for just on the list of Nightfalls when they come Grandmaster. I think this is going to be possibly a difficult one, at least to get used to. Speaking of similarly, the Liminality Strike, the recent addition with the final shape. I would definitely say this one is a medium if you have experience, otherwise hard. I definitely know because it is a brand new, relatively new strike. It was hard getting used to the nuances, the, how do I say this, the champion spawns, the boss's habits, the variety of just issues that usually come to learning a Grandmaster Nightfall. And definitely it was difficult at the start, but then towards the end of the season, after people had gotten the knowledge of it, learning about duping the Taken Orb, yes, that is a thing. I saw it firsthand myself. But aside from that, it is pretty much, I would rate it a medium difficulty one. As long as you have people who are used to it, if you are just stepping into the strike, it is going to be a world of hurt. Similarly so, the Corrupted. This one is one that has been around for ages. It is a slightly infamous Nightfall, because for a time, this was the most difficult. But as time went on, people became used to it, and we got more armor, more elemental abilities. It just kind of became easier and easier, especially since it didn't change ever. The 2 ogre rooms was the same, the elevator was the same, the final boss, you could cheese it if you have a potent enough damage setup. So, yeah, the Corrupted I would definitely say is a medium difficulty one. Obviously hard for the people who are just used to it, because they're going to have a world of pain to go through, but aside from that, it's hard to exactly gauge properly for the new person. Same with the Inverted Spire. This was freshly revamped. I have not played the revamped version just yet, although, actually thinking about it, I'm not sure what they could do to actually make this hard, aside from doing like they did with the Lake of Shadows, and extending one section, or otherwise, how to say this, also adding additional ads. Although, considering it's Vex and Cabal, unless it was Shadow Legion, and some of the Shadow Legion had, Tormentors, Subjugators, or otherwise the, Grim somewhere in there, I imagine this wouldn't be so terrible. Well, the Grim isn't right, but whatever faction the Witnesses army were. That being said, I don't see this being exactly difficult. I would probably say it's a medium one as we get into it and learn the new version, but otherwise this will probably actually be an easy one just down the list, just because Inverted Spire, it's old hat. It's the same thing kind of with the Arms Dealer. When people are still getting used to the revamps and the additions of various new creations in the strike, I would say it's a medium difficulty one, but once you get used to it, it is definitely going to be one of the easier ones on the list. Although I don't know if I could expressly say it is an easy one. It is an easier one. Like, if there's going to be a week to farm out Nightfalls, it'll probably be on the Arms Dealer or Inverted Spire. But moving on to the next one, we have the Heist Battleground Moon, which is one I would definitely say is hard to the uninitiated. Otherwise, actually kind of easy for the initiated. Just because there is large portions of nothing but tons and tons of ads, especially in the opening if I'm thinking of the correct Heist Battleground, in addition to having a motion-activated eradication beam following you the entire time you are outside. Now, I personally forget what is in the center, like what is the midst of the Nightfall. The boss is the Once Purest Scorn Sniper, which in a case of another Void Burn, it is really damaging to get hit by it, but otherwise there is plenty of cover to hide behind, especially when there's ads. Just have a good well or two and you should be more than fine surviving the boss room. Next is the Birthplace of the Vile, which I would definitely say is a Nightfall that is the definition of slow is smooth, smooth is fast. The entire strike is essentially just clear the way, otherwise there isn't much else to it. There's no defend portions aside from, well, actually no, thinking about it, there is the initial well defense, but you only need one person to stand in the well and the rest can be off in the distance taking on ads. And aside from that, it is just going through the rooms, clearing them out, opening portals. And once you get to the boss fight, it is a very similar essence. The only difference being that there is a semi-constant spawn of ads and just random squads popping up. In addition, the boss, typically, it is a Scorn Sniper, which does typically come with a Void Burn, so he hurts very, very bad. Plus, he's one of the fickle ones that likes to move about the room. So I would say the boss fight is the thing to worry about with this Nightfall. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it's too difficult. I would definitely say it's easier than the Light Blade. Yes, the infamous Light Blade, possibly still, at this point, one of the most difficult Nightfalls in the list of available Nightfalls. The strike itself, it is a bit to chew through. There is definitely some sections that you can do better than other people's. The swamp, the boat ride, thinking of them. There are some sections that will be holdups just because the presence of light bearers in a Grandmaster is really a monkey wrench in just sometimes how well it can go. From the magical bouncing shields that can make geometry bend to their will, as well as suppressor grenades that do not suppress, they just straight up kill you like a frag. I would say this is one of the ones that you definitely need experience to get through. Otherwise, it will be a struggle fest. Not to mention the final boss with Ala Cool roaming about, the intermittent waves of light bearers and high knights, not to mention the champions that like to show up in a circular room with practically no cover. Yeah, this is one of those ones where if you don't eradicate some things immediately right off the bat and let them spread out, the room will no longer be one to want to be in. That being said, I would say it's still a hard Nightfall. It's only worth going through once. If there is a double Nightfall week or a weapon that people are highly seeking, I imagine people might farm this one, but otherwise I only see people doing this once to get the clear of the Conqueror. Next is the Proving Grounds, which I would say is a strictly medium one for a few different reasons. Now, there is some dense enemies in there, whether it's just a lot of enemies or otherwise a lot of just random boss bar enemies throughout. But the initial boss getting into the tank can be cheesed if you place him right, because he'll just shoot at the shield generator. Otherwise, it is just a big colossus. That being said, there is a few moments to go through. I'm thinking of the power cores and keeping them along. Flying rocks, of course, are an issue, but it's kind of something you cannot prepare for. It just happens at random. That being said, the final boss, it's kind of not that terrible. I do know when the shield generator goes up and it's constantly spewing out fireballs, it could be an issue. But you can't, in the first stage, you can just run around the shield and most of the fireballs will just kind of trail along until they detonate on their own. Otherwise, the tunnel strat to avoid the fireballs is totally a thing. If you do not know, under the boss's platform, there is a tunnel that goes from side to side. You cannot hang out in it, but you can pass through it. And dumping back and forth pretty consistently is a pretty good cheese strat for the final boss if you are wishing to avoid the fireballs. Plus, the ads just typically don't like to congregate by any of the entrances, so it's a pretty good way to avoid everything from Ignovoon. Otherwise, this is a bit of a medium difficulty. I wouldn't even say it hard. Maybe, obviously, just for the people getting used to the strike. But once you get used to the strike, this is no more than a medium difficulty strike at all. That being said, just to run through it, I'd say medium for Behemoth, medium/hard for Liminality, the Corruptant, medium/hard for new people, Inverted Spire is probably a medium, same with the Arms Dealer. The Moon is more than likely medium, hard definitely if you're just getting used to it. Birthplace, I would say medium outright, maybe just hard once it gets to the boss fight. Lightblade is just difficulty hard, and Proving Grounds is difficulty medium. With that, that is pretty much my retrospective looking at it of this season's Nightfall list. I'm not exactly happy. I like that they expanded the amount of Nightfalls. My issue is they expanded the amount of Nightfalls here, but then just threw in all of the difficult ones. Legitimately, if they had cut this area, bottom of the area, off, it would be an average season, because we had 2 hard ones, 2 medium ones, and then 2 relatively easy ones. But then they had to throw in Liminality, the Corrupted, and Behemoth. Which, again, I just have the general issue of Battlegrounds being in the Nightfall playlist being they weren't made to be strikes, so there is all the ads. But, you know, that's just me. I'm an armchair general when it comes to these Nightfalls. I've been playing them for ages, so I know what makes a good Nightfall and what doesn't. Right now, Birthplace, I'd say, is an example of a good Nightfall. The Proving Grounds, maybe even Lightblade. It's a bit too difficult, too many champions in the final boss room, considering there's way little cover. But, you know, just looking at it, I'd say a majority of these are well made, but any Battleground, it is not too good. But with that, that is my run-through of this week's, or the season's available Nightfalls. And of course, eventually the Conqueror node will come up, and all of these are available to knock out in one go. With that, my name is TheMadScorpyon. I will see you in the next video.